the new Mega Marketing Management and Sales Series. The 7 steps to every sale, mastering the sales process. Ladies and gentlemen, Chet Holmes.
Now, here's the decision-making process. Basically, in order to make a sale, the first thing that you have to do is establish rapport. And that's really developing trust and respect between you and the prospect. The second thing you're going to need to do is understand what their needs are. You need to build value around what it is that you're selling. You need to create the desire. That's what makes them want to have what it is that you're selling. And then there's going to be the part where they have to overcome the objections, which are the reasons for them not to buy, close the sale, and then, of course, follow up after the sale. Now, for some of the people who do one-stop telemarketing closes, this is not going to be as relevant because there isn't a lot of follow-up. But we're going to talk about that in another module where we talk about lifetime value of customer. So, but as you can see, this is a pyramid which is showing that fundamentally what most people focus on is this back part of the sale. And that's where the biggest portion of the energy is committed from most companies. It's overcoming the objections and closing the sale. Now, it's good to have a focus on overcoming objections, and it's good to know what the objections are going to possibly be, and also, of course, having good closing skills, which this module is going to cover. When you study the best salespeople, what you find is that they have a tendency not to focus on the back part of the sale. So we've done extensive studies, and anyone who's a top producer and anyone who's studied anybody who's really good at bringing in business and keeping customers and building customer relationships knows that the reason that businesses grow is based upon this. Studies of the best salespeople show that they focus on the front end of the sale, that the majority of their time is spent building the relationship, and the majority of their focus is on establishing trust and respect. And we're going to talk about each one of these 7 steps, so if you want to write them down, that's okay, but we're going to get deep into each one of these, and that would be the time to really write them down. And then, of course, the other thing that they do is they really have a deep understanding of what the prospect's needs are. And that makes all the difference when you go to build value, when you try to create desire. Objections, you should find out the objections at this point of the sale. So my question is this. If we know that the best salespeople build great relationships, and if we know that the best salespeople are really good at finding out what the needs are, why don't companies supply training in that area? Why don't companies... The real thing that a company can do to support salespeople is to give them tools that help them be more trusted and help them be more respected. Now, in modules 1, 2, and 3, we talk about all of those aspects and how you can deliver market information and how you can deliver statistics about your market. These are the kinds of things that make your people more trusted and respected, because people who are highly knowledgeable and people who seem to really know a lot about the businesses that they're dealing with are automatically perceived on a higher level. So the first thing a company must do in order to build better trust and respect with their marketplace is really have a great understanding of what the issues are that are facing the customer. Not the issues that are facing you, not an internal focus on what your products and services are, but what are the issues facing your customers. So let's have a rapport workshop. Now, what I'd like you to do is think and then write down your 2 best relationships. Client relationships if you have been in sales, and then personal relationships if you really haven't. And let's talk about this for a second. It's like the funnel. So at this point, you're here in the funnel. I mean, you've just brought this thing all the way down, right to the final stages of the decision process. And in the interview part, or the second step you would go through, where you're trying to, and by the way, number 1 and number 2 are kind of like combined. You're building rapport and trust at the same time you're asking good questions, because when you ask good questions, you show your intelligence, you build even more trust. And now, as we bring these things down, they come to a more of a logical conclusion. So, step number 5, you can't get somebody to buy until you overcome the reasons not to buy. So, step number 5 is you must overcome objections. The toughest objection to overcome is what's known as the unknown objection. So let's talk about how to overcome objections. Well, if you thoroughly qualify while establishing need, then you shouldn't really come into objections. What we find is that really master communicators and master builders of business are so good at finding information in the first part of the sales process, in step number 2 and step number 1, that they rarely will, when they come down through the funnel, there's nothing in the way there. It's just, you know, if you didn't do a good job up here, then all of a sudden you've got a blockage in your funnel. You're not going to go to a nice, smooth close here. So the more you understand at the beginning, you just can't ask too many questions, the better and the more logical the conclusion is going to be when you come down in here. If you hit problems here, you probably didn't do a good enough job when you're in the beginning part of the sale. So if we look back here, questions, questions, questions. You just can't ask too many questions. And then along the way, ask what they think. Ask if they agree. Ask, do you agree with that? Because if I keep saying yes, and we're in a big funnel here, and as we go down through the funnel, I keep saying yes, then it's very hard for me to all of a sudden start saying, no, I disagree, when I just agreed with everything you said as you brought me through the funnel. Ask if there is anything that will keep them from doing business with you. This is a close, actually. All right, so this is an actual closing technique when you can just say, is there anything that will stop us from doing business here? At this point, if there is, the objection will come up. Is there anything that would stop you from doing business, from working with our firm, whether it's a